Assalamu alaikum. Recuperating pretty well, feeling much better. Happy to be back. I had long overdue started to memorize the 40 Hadith of Imam Nawawi, and this is the classic collection that, after memorizing the Quran, a Muslim who cares about the knowledge should memorize these 40 Hadith. And I had read them, but I never thought to memorize them. So I took upon myself to push myself and start memorizing the Hadith. And lo and behold, there's a saying that when you go a handspan to Allah, He comes an arm length to you. And when you go walking to Him, He comes running to you. I've almost finished memorizing them, and suddenly occurs this controversy about one of the rulers in the Arab Gulf has decided to take away some hadith that he doesn't like and he feels is irrelevant. And perhaps I know there are some weak hadith. However, that just happened, at the same time. And so then another situation happened regarding Shia in London, and I'm not getting political because I feel it's useless and I don't like it. So I'm just going to say that these coincidences are not coincidences. They are real signs. So now I'm going to do for you hadith in English, because as I'm memorizing these hadiths, there's 50 of them, 40 from Imam Nawawi and then some more from Imam Rajab. That's another issue. But as I'm almost finished memorizing all of these hadith, I'm realizing how beautiful they are and how much more depth is in them. When you really, really memorize, you have to go deeper. And it's a miracle. When you read something, you read it. I understand it, it's great. But when you memorize it, it's like layers upon layers upon layers unfold. So I've chosen some of my favorites that I feel are pertinent for you, because some of them, they're so face value, they're so easily understood, and you'll get it in a second. But there are others that I found as I'm reading them and memorizing them, they bring back such memories of my life in Egypt and my life as a new Muslim. New Muslim? Well, yeah, this was like, I've been a Muslim perhaps as I'm doing this, in the beginning, learning Hadith. It was like, I was a Muslim for like 20 years, but now I've been a Muslim for 40 years. And I'm going to begin with one of my favorites, and I'm going to do something specific here. I'm going to read the Hadith to you, and then I'm going to explain it. You can read the explanation, you can read the translation anywhere. I'm going to give you my life experience with this Hadith. Before I knew it was a Hadith, it was my life experience with an Egyptian woman that I had met in my early years in Cairo. And I'd be proud and pleased to give you her name. Her name is Ahmed Arzak. And she turned in to be probably my best friend of women there that I have. So I'm going to intertwine each hadith with my personal experience for you. So let's begin now. I'm going to read it in English, though, to make things easier for you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Now, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is for Quran. Bismillah is for when we just start anything, like Bismillah when we eat, or Bismillah when we put on our clothing, or Bismillah when we walk in the house. Bismillah. And here is the Hadith. On the authority of Abu Hurairah, who said, the Messenger of Allah said, upon the people's every joint, a charity is due. Each day the sun rises. Your being just between two persons is a charity. You're helping a man with his mount, lifting him up onto it, or hoisting up his belongings onto it for him is a charity. A good word is a charity. And with each step you take, walking to the prayer in the masjid is a charity. And you're removing something harmful from the road is a charity. You know, before you experience anything, theory is far removed from practice oftentimes. So when you're an American and you're coming to Egypt, and after living 40 years in America, you have a lot of cultural baggage, a lot of life experiences, and a lot of prejudices and preferences and cultural acculturations. You have habits. And very often they conflict with the habits in Egypt. And sometimes the habits in Egypt are better. You know when they're better? When they're more or less different from what we are accustomed to. Now, this particular woman that became my close friend, she was like my sidekick. Because when I first got there, I didn't know any English. I didn't know any Arabic. You know, I've been sick for 3 days, right? Really sick. I had a bad flu. So I'm going to have some brain freezes, but that's okay. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm not going to start all over again to make it perfect because my videos are not perfect. Sniffle still, but not like it was. So this woman would take me around the masajid, and she would take me around to the durus, you know, the lessons and all. And she would read with me when I was slowly inching my way along, classic books. She would read to me at her home because her husband was a professor Hadeeth in Al-Azhar. He was a sheikh, and he had passed on. And he had left all his books in the library of their flat where they lived. And shall I add this drama? Yeah, I think I should, because, you know, the trials purify. And it's said that oftentimes the people who had the greatest trials have the greatest heart and compassion in all sense of the word. So when I first would go to her house, and as we became friends, she had 2 sons at that time, like teenagers or preteens, and she told me that her husband had passed away with her baby daughter that was only a year old. Now, her husband was blind, and when you're a blind sheikh or a blind professor, you will get a driver, and the driver will be at your service to take you to work, to teach the classes, and also to take you where you need to go because you're blind. And this is one of the perks of Azhar professors that get drivers. So she and her family, her husband was in the front seat next to the driver, and she and her 2 sons and her baby daughter was on her lap, and they were heading off to visit his family. And without going into detail, they got in a very severe accident, and the husband died, went right through the windshield, and the baby daughter flew off her lap and died. And she found herself waking up from a month or 2 months, I forget what she said, 6 weeks maybe. We call it ghaibuba, I don't know, coma, or whatever happens to your brain. And when she woke up, she was told, you know, your husband and daughter are gone. Now, I don't know what happened after that. We didn't go into detail to discuss it in any depth. All I can tell you is this woman is a saint. She's like a selfless role model of all that is good, and has a very big heart for anyone who's having difficulties. So that's the prelude about this woman. So I noticed whenever we would go anywhere, she was always trying to do some good deed. I recall one day we were going to a hospital to visit someone who had fallen off a roof and was quadriplegic in a bed in a hospital. And as we were going to visit this young man, she wanted to teach me Adhkar al-Masa. You know, the Maghrib time when you make your dhikr. It was something that I didn't even know what she was talking about. And she had no English. And I had no Arabic. And I remember we were walking to the hospital from the drop-off station of the taxi. And she just kept repeating these adhkar and making me, that's one thing I could do. I could always repeat Arabic easily. It didn't cause a problem for me. I was able to pronounce it easily. So for a half an hour, we're walking into the hospital, and I'm repeating this adhkar. And I thought to myself, this is like a portable classroom, private lesson, as we're walking, and I'm getting exercise. And I felt I really enjoyed that. And what a novel idea that could be for other people who are meeting up with tourists, American tourists who are Muslim. They could adopt this methodology. Another thing she would often do is when we were walking, because in the area that I lived in, it was pretty far from any of the lessons, so I'd take a taxi to the metro. It's called the Underground, you know, like we have the MBTA in Boston. And it was really easy. You just get a taxi and get off at the station, and then you would ride so many stops. It would usually be 40 minutes, to the stop you get off for the mosque, the masjid. And we would walk together, arm in arm. And I would always notice as we were walking, she would kick a can to the side of the road or pick up a glass bottle on the road and put it off to the side of the road. And something that she would do that would amuse me is she would gather up, sometimes there would be pieces of wood or branches that had fallen down from a tree, and she would always move them away and put them off to the side. Whereas you could have just gone around it. You know, a glass bottle, okay, take it off and, you know, it could harm people, but she was always picking things up and putting them off to the side. Now, another thing she would do, which I found was extremely helpful as I got older. You know, I have known this woman for, I would say 25 years. And she would always insist on carrying my bags. And I said, no, I didn't like this way. I'm American, you know. I don't like this kind of, you know, they have all this British influence of servants and things. And so I would always say, no, I can do it. Because we'd stop off at these fruit carts and we'd buy, you know, I specifically would always buy figs. And so I'd get a kilo of figs and a kilo of oranges and a kilo of grapes. And it's not that heavy. And then I'd get some fresh cucumbers or tomatoes, whatever that. This is the beauty of Egypt. They have these little farm carts everywhere. And they come out every morning. And they're fresh. Problem is, you have to go to the area which is more local, like where I lived in the upper classes. You don't get that around there. They don't even care. They send their maids out to do it, off in the areas where the maids live. Then the maids will bring it back to the house and give it to them. I told my husband, I don't want a maid. What do you mean you don't want? You have to have a maid. Everyone has a maid. I said, I don't have a maid. And that didn't go down well with my sisters-in-law at all. Because when you act like you're going to do everything, I know I don't want a maid. I don't want a shopper. I don't want someone to clean my house. I'll do everything myself. I cook. I'm American. This is normal for us. It's not normal over there. If you have any status in the society, you have to have a maid. It's one of the things I don't like about Egypt, by the way. One of the few things I don't like. Because it's a class stratification, and it makes people look down at other people, and I just don't like that. Everyone is free to be you and me. So she would insist, and I would say no. But as I got older, we've been friends for such a long time, I would most welcome her to carry my things when we were down at the fruit sellers or wherever we were, where it would involve carrying heavy bags. And then she would put me in, as I'm speaking as the Hadeeth is telling you, she'd put me on my transport, whether I was riding inside a taxi or inside a minibus or inside anything with wheels. She'd open the door for me, I would get in and sit down, and then she'd hand me off my bags, and then she'd make sure that she would close the door and wave me goodbye. Now that might seem like something small to you, but believe me, it was an Islamic habit, you may say, tradition, custom, that was extremely potently exhibiting Islamic behavior. You know, the helping someone and showing that person that you're there for them. All of these Islamic behaviors add up. And so if this is a hadith that's been lasting since the time of Prophet Muhammad, and it's included in this collection of classic hadith, I think we ought to pay close attention to it. And sometimes I think about her. I'm in America now, and I will just walk by, I don't know, junk on the road and not do it. And I would feel guilty. And I would say, if Arzak were here, she would do it. I don't know if you understand why I'm doing this, but I'm hoping that this is going to help you as I continue on with another hadith now. I've chosen, I think, maybe four for tonight because they're all very short. And then I won't always give these little memories. I might sometimes give a bit of different types of knowledge. The next one is going to be more medical knowledge. And I know you're going to enjoy it, and it's going to be shorter than this one. So, inshallah, salam alaikum, until we will come back with the next hadith. Oh my goodness, which number was it? I'll put it in the description. Because these hadith of Imam Nawawi are numbered. So I think that was number 27, I'm not sure, but I'll put it in the description. Assalamu alaikum.